welcome to the San Jose Hockey Now podcast. I'm Sheng Peng, editor-in-chief of San Jose Hockey Now. You can also find my work at MEC Sharks on Twitter, Sheng_Peng, Blue Sky, Sheng Peng.
And I'm Keegan McNally. You can find me on Twitter at _hockey, my website, half-wallhockey.com, or at San Jose Hockey Now. This week, it's a big episode. We've got Todd Marchant. But before that, Sheng's got a word from our sponsors.
Yeah, and look, Keegan and I think we're matching here, right? Right. There you go.
Look at that.
Now, Keegan, though, if we are both the director of vibes, are we the co-director? Are we the... do we need a duel for the death to be the true director of vibes?
Well, I mean, Jumbo, so we're just fans of the director of vibes. We're not the director of vibes. We're just fans of him.
So you're saying that if Jumbo was part of the three-headed monster, he would have the majority interest and majority vote? I don't know if I like that.
Probably. I mean, he's Jumbo.
He's Jumbo. So anyway, so these shirts are brought to you by Bring Hockey Back, bringhockeyback.net. They are our sponsor. They are incredible sponsors. So they have two new Shark shirts. Well, one old new shirt like this one, Director of Vibes, which many of you have. And also a new Macklin Celebrini t-shirt that they've sent us that we should be breaking out the next episode. Next episode. Or maybe we should wear something different so we're not wearing the same thing to work. But anyway, Bring Hockey Back, bringhockeyback.net. So they have awesome t-shirts. Right now I see a bunch of, they have cool USA stuff. USA. They have a lot of Dallas Stars stuff too. Dallas Stars obviously deep playoff run. Also too, they make custom hockey jerseys. And so any order, any kind of event or whatever, right? You want a hockey jersey, whether you are an adult league or some kind of corporate event or whatever, they do some outstanding hockey jerseys. So anyway, go to Bring Hockey Back, bringhockeyback.net.
Love it.
Oh, I forgot too. Coupon code. So enter San Jose Hockey Now. Get 15% off these t-shirts. Maybe other stuff too. I'm not sure. I haven't tried on other stuff. I should ask them. But if you are going to order anything else, try San Jose Hockey Now. And maybe you get 15% off too. But definitely for these shirts, though, that I believe you can still order on bringhockeyback.net.
Love it. Yes, this week we are going to have an interview with Todd Marchant in just a little bit of time. He's the director of player development for the San Jose Sharks. He's had this is our third time having Todd on, which is great.
He's San Jose Hockey Now podcast tradition.
Yeah, he kind of marks the rollover of a new year for us because this is where basically when we started 2 years ago was this time frame. So it's the rollover into the off season with Todd Marchant. He gives us an update on every prospect of the Sharks system, except for the ones that are on the Barracuda or with the Sharks already.
Yeah, because that we talk about more and we see them more. So we get Todd on because Todd goes deep, literally into Russia to talk about some of these prospects.
Yeah, Todd's got his Todd knows exactly the comings and goings. He knows their progressions of all of these players. So just hearing him talk about the things that each player needs to work on and where they're going next year, the plans for them is kind of it's an exciting thing for
some surprises coming to development camp, some surprises maybe even playing North America. So
yeah, exactly, and lots of Sam Dickinson and Kasper Halttunen talk and other OHL guys as well. So great interview. Stick around for that. Before then, we're going to talk just a couple minutes here about the World Championship and a certain Sharks coach that might have won it. And then finally, we'll talk about just the Memorial Cup and Sam Dickinson and Kasper Halttunen that are still playing in almost June. So pretty cool. But let's start with the World Championship. Yes, I guess the USA has won their first World Championship in 92 years. Is that right?
Well, it's a very technical thing. So I believe I actually put in the story the exact years, but I think from 1928 to 1968 or something like that, the Olympics and World Championships actually doubled for each other. So if you won the Olympic gold, you're also considered a World Championships winner. So in 1960, the U.S. won the gold medal. And so that also was a World Championships gold. But if you talk about it's from 1924 to 1968, by the way, Olympic gold medals also doubled as World Championships gold. But you want to talk about a standalone World Championships? That is, yes, the 1933 was the last American standalone World Championships gold. So
Wow.
whether we're talking 65 years, 1960, or 92 years, it's been a really, really long time. Cue Titanic.
It's a weird championship. I mean, to be honest, like it's a weird tournament. The time of year it is, you don't get the best players in the world always. You get a lot of the best players, but not the absolute best like you would in the Olympics. So it's a strange championship. I'm super pumped for them though, and Will Smith was on the team, and it's good for the young guys like Smith and Celebrini to be getting that kind of attention. Especially, I mean, Celebrini had a bunch of highlights that were as he was playing with Nathan McKinnon and Sidney Crosby. Pretty cool to see the Sharks having a little bit of the spotlight with Warsofsky, Smith, and Celebrini.
It's also a marker for how both those kids have grown. Last year, Celebrini flew with Team Canada to, I think, pre-tournament games, I think in Budapest.
Yep.
And he got cut from the team because they got more experienced guys on board. He and Adam Fantilli got cut on the team before they actually went to the tournament. I'm not sure where last year's tournament, I forgot where last year's tournament was. But anyway, Macklin flew back from Europe to the draft lottery, which the Sharks had just won. And so that's one marker that now Macklin wasn't quite at the Crosby McKinnon level in this tournament. Those are their go-to guys, but he was a level beneath them. And played a good, I think, about 15 minutes a night, play important kind of role. Second power play unit looked like a lot of the time. So he had a very important role, was on Crosby's line for a lot of the World Championships. I think he ended up with Ryan O'Reilly in sort of the second line by the final game. And Will Smith, I think last year, he averaged about 5 minutes a game in the World Championships when he did play. And all the reports I was told that for him last year was that this was a guy that wasn't quite ready for pro NHL or NHL action based on the World Championships. And granted, the World Championships is usually played on European ice, bigger ice, so it's different than NHL. But those are all the reports that I heard, and I don't think they were wrong. The Will Smith that we saw in training camp in the first half of the season wasn't quite ready for NHL action. But of course, Will turned that around. Will had 30 points, I think, in the last, or almost a point per game player in the last half of the season. So what we saw Will Smith in this tournament, he had 7 assists in 10 games. I think he was averaging about, again, he wasn't like the go-to guy for Team USA. They had Tage Thompson, who also scored the overtime winner there as one of their go-to guys. But he still played a solid 14 minutes a night. Again, 7 assists in 10 games, very solid numbers. And so it's a good marker for how those kids have grown.
Yeah. It's I remember last year it was kind of like was Smith going to be really with San Jose? Because I think he had signed his ELC right after the World Championship. Was that right?
Yeah, I believe that's right. Yeah, that was like a will he or won't he story throughout the World Championships. He was very coy. I know he did a couple stories with Aaron Vickers, NHL.com. We provided incredible coverage, by the way. If you haven't read, the last couple of years, he's provided incredible coverage of Smith and company at the World Championships in terms of just asking them kind of the hard questions, even though they can't really answer it. And otherwise writing great stories about just how the kids are growing. Aaron wrote a bunch of stories about Crosby and McKinnon, Crosby and Celebrini and McKinnon, other things like that.
Yeah. And so good to see the growth and just a steady progression from Will Smith. I think next year he's going to, I mean, sophomore seasons, they do have some downturns, but I feel like he's just kind of on this upward trend for next year. So,
well, now it's time to hit the gym, right? So that's, I guess, the one thing about World Championships that is not unfortunate, but basically you play for a month, and so then instead of your season ending in mid-April and then take a couple weeks off and then start hitting the gym, you played for another month now, and so basically it's like a long playoff run. And you got to take a couple weeks off probably after a long playoff run, and then you got to hit the gym. So you basically lose a couple weeks there, a month there of good training or so, and I'm sure will be fine. It's not a big deal, but it's one of those things where like, okay, that's his next step though. I watch. I mean, we all watched Will at the World Championships. He was a good player. I saw a lot of the kind of what he was doing with the Sharks, just the subtle passes, the keeping the puck and sort of drawing people to him, right? But there's still, I mean, this is basically an extension of the regular season here, right? And so we haven't seen that leap from Will Smith. We still need to see that. I did want to say though, because I'm gonna forget to mention these guys too, that it wasn't just Ryan Warsofsky and Will Smith who won World Championships gold too. Let's give a shout out to goaltending coach Thomas Speer and video coach Nick Gialdini. So both with the Sharks, those are their roles on the Sharks, and so they also were part of the team. So I wanted to do a little aside to them.
Yeah, big accomplishment, historic win, as it were.
Yep. But yeah, so looking forward from this victory, I mean, one of the things that I guess it'll calm people down. Some people who are rabid anti Ryan Warsofskyers. Hey, he won. He was given some good players. He didn't even have the most loaded team in the tournament, I would say. I don't think USA was the most loaded team in the tournament, and he won a gold medal. So give him some good players, give him a chance. Maybe Warzo will surprise you. Yep. And I think another thing that I come out of this thinking is that this could be a good. I saw some people mention this, and I don't know if it's going to be a sell for free agents necessarily, but it gives players around the league more experience with Ryan Warsofsky, and so then it gives them something to talk about. Like, let's say this is just like a very like distant example, but let's say like the Sharks traded for Bowen Byram, right? Buffalo, right? And Bowen might ask Tage Thompson on the way out the door, hey, what was your experience like with Warsofsky? He's probably going to hear good things. And so players like that, right, that were exposed to Warsofsky this time around, that it'll help sort of the positive. I mean, no one's going to come because he won World Championships. No big free agent's going to come. But it'll just kind of spread the word around the league that, hey, this guy, yeah, his team didn't do so well last year, but maybe it wasn't just on him.
Yeah. I think there was definitely some growth this year from the Sharks. So regardless of the wins, losses, still got faith in Warsofsky for next year. And even more so now. He's got a pedigree, right? He's got a gold medal. I mean, even more so, right? Already had some.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say he already had some pedigree from. I thought you were going to go on from winning.
No. I interrupted you
at lower levels, but this is a world stage. So
yeah, I was going to say that's what I was going to say. The rule of three, not to get too nerdy here, but for Warsofsky, 2019 won a Calder Cup as assistant coach of Charlotte, and 2022 won a Calder Cup as the head coach of the Chicago Wolves. I just did a story about that, about some of the players that were on that team, Kochakov, Stefan Nason, Jalen Chatfield, assistant coach Bob Nardella. I spoke with him throughout the season about Warsofsky, and I thought yesterday was a good day to finally put out that story. Should have come out during the season, but anyway, so maybe 2028 for the Sharks. So that's what we're looking for. So
that's the Stanley Cup win right there, baby. Wouldn't be. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it.
I mean, the way the Sharks are going, that could just be him winning another World Championships.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Okay. We also have two prospects that were talked about in the upcoming interview with Todd Marchant, but Sam Dickinson and Kasper Halttunen are still making their post-season trek through.
They're the only Sharks still playing.
They're the only ones still playing, and it's starting to get a little bit ridiculous. They have a very good team. London does, if you have not heard. They are very, very good. They've won their first two games in the Memorial Cup here. 3-2 and 3-1. Still not blowing them out, but like, yeah, their win-loss record. They have one loss in the past 5, 10, 14, 18, 20 games. They have one loss. So that's ridiculous. And Sam Dickinson's a huge part of that. And so is Kasper Halttunen. Obviously, he had a huge playoffs for London. Was getting hat tricks every night, it felt like, which Todd talks about. But yeah, I think with we didn't really get to touch on it after the Button interview about Sam making the NHL. And I think maybe that's something that we should consider that as a possibility, right?
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Maybe.
Well, we actually did touch on it with Todd a little bit, and Todd actually did, just to tease the interview a little bit, Todd did indicate that Sam has improved in areas that may have held him back from playing a higher level this past season. And certainly Craig Button in the interview last week, we did ask Craig about that a little bit too, and Craig was obviously very enthusiastic on Sam Dickinson and Sam Dickinson's prospects of making the NHL next year. So yeah, look forward to that interview and a lot of good conversation about Sam. And it is, I mean, the Sharks defense, I mean, I think that you want to avoid installing a guy just because you're excited to see him and whatnot. And it's also defense too. So I still tend to be more cautious. But hearing some of the recent stuff that we've heard, maybe.
We'll give it a solid maybe B plus. I don't know.
One thing that we didn't ask Todd, and now I think about would be interesting is Sam going to be at development camp? He probably will be, and because I guess if they let him skip it, that could be some indication that okay, they're kind of prepping him for a longer for training camp. That's what they're more worried about. That they think he's advanced past that, maybe.
Well, it's also going to be if they keep playing, he's not going to have a lot of time.
That too, right. There could be injuries and whatnot too.
Yeah, they might just say that you skip it because you're playing into June,
right?
And like don't need to go play it or no need to go to dev camp right afterwards. So
right.
Yeah, who knows? Or they haven't come.
What I would caution though is, and we saw this a little bit with Quentin Bustin, who we also talked about on this episode and his kind of turbulent season, that a guy can have a great development camp, a guy can have a good rookie face-off. Wait till those preseason games before you start to kind of really make. So I think with Sam, I guess what I'm saying is that I understand there's a lot of excitement for him, and there's a need for a guy like that in the organization for sure. With the Sharks defense in the state that they are right now, and even how they'll probably look after free agency and trades and whatnot this offseason. So there's that excitement. I get that, but let's not put the cart before the horse until we see him at kind of preseason. And preseason, I kind of see as closer to AHL action as opposed to rookie face-off or development camp, which is just like all-star junior action or something, like Memorial Cup action or something, right? Sure. So anyway, that's what I'll be looking for from Sam before pencil him into a lineup myself. But good to hear there's growth in his game, though, which we heard from Craig and Todd.
Yeah. Kasper is an interesting one. Scores a lot of goals, and he did. When we talk about it, he raises his game in the playoffs and everything.
Yes,
a guy that likes to play that style, likes to be likes to be the guy shooting the puck. It's I'm intrigued by Kasper Halttunen all the time. Like he just has there's certain elements of his game that are very NHL ready, and then there's a lot that isn't, and he just got to put it all together. I mean, I think it's going to take many years before we really see a version of him that actually can make the NHL.
Yep.
But yeah, it's intriguing at least. It's not a like his numbers in his this would be his draft plus 2 years don't look great in terms of the scoring pace.
The regular season numbers don't.
Yeah, the regular season. But and that's kind of concerning, but it is a little bit of context about what he's going to be doing at the next level and how deep that team is. So there's a little bit of context that needs to be added there to it too before
You know
you write him off.
What would be valuable to an NHL team actually is a true
Mhm.
playoff weapon, like a guy that is a
Mhm.
on pace 15 goal scorer in the regular season that you pay like $2 million a year, but every
Yeah,
playoffs he wakes
he
up,
gets
he
you 10
becomes a
goals.
40 goal scorer or 30
Yeah.
goal scorer.
Yep.
That's valuable.
Yeah.
A regular season sleeper agent.
Yep. But yeah, there's these shooters like Mike Hoffman and James Neal, like, and there's these guys that do make a career out of it. It's just
Oh yeah.
it's got to see if it's all going to come together for Kasper. So
And I think we did pin Todd on where he thinks Kasper will play next year, I think, right?
yep.
Or was that Chernyshov?
No, we said it for Kasper too.
Oh no, well let's not give it all away. But yeah,
Yeah.
we were on that info. So sorry, Todd.
Yeah.
Gotta do our job there. So
Yeah, we don't have a lot of else to talk about this week. I think this is the calm before the drafting storm that's about to.
Next week is the combine, which I will be
Mhm.
there in Buffalo, guys. So we'll
Hey.
bring you coverage from there. And then of course the draft on the 27th. So there's gonna be a lot of lead up to that. Free agency, July 1st.
Yep.
Obviously a lot of trades, a lot of flurry of activity before the draft, around the draft.
Mhm.
So this is a little bit of a calm, I guess, at least for the Sharks,
Mhm.
not for the rest of the hockey world in between the World Championships and conference finals and all that. But for the Sharks, this is usually the calm.
Yeah. Love it. Anything else this week? We're gonna be really quick. But
Well, go read a couple articles that I just
mhm.
posted over the last week. I just mentioned one about the ex-Chicago Wolves talking up Ryan Warsofsky.
Mhm.
And then I posted something about William Eklund's improvement this season and where he needs to get better. Spent a lot of time on that. Actually, I was talking with William all season about that. And so finally I got that out. Has a lot of video, has a lot of stats, micro stats from Stathletes. So it took a while to put that together, but I'm proud of that one. And
Mhm.
also too, I did a kind of a speculative what the history kind of the number one pick getting traded. That's if the Sharks are able to trade with the Islanders or trading down, the number two pick being traded down. And both things, basically trading the number one or number two pick, haven't happened in over 2 decades. So it has happened, but it
Mhm.
hasn't happened a lot recently.
Yeah, I mean, so it's gonna happen now. Yeah, that's a
we
gambler's fallacy right there. The
I don't
next
know.
one's the one.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know we are we're waiting with bated breath for Keegan's top his draft list. I know he's going to come out with that in a couple of weeks. I'm
super
still
excited.
feeling right now, just this is my own temperature check. And this is not any different than what we said in the mailbag, or this is not any different than what I said in the mailbag, that if a reasonable deal comes on the table to
Mhm.
trade up to number one, and for me, a reasonable deal could be trading number two and a really good prospect to get up to number one.
Mhm.
I would do it just to guarantee that you get Schaefer and guarantee that you keep other teams away from bidding on him. If the Islanders, a lot of this depends on, as the
Yeah.
article I wrote mentions, like how much the Islanders want Schaefer. If the Islanders really like Schaefer, then you gotta send them a mint. You gotta do the Ricky Williams, Herschel Walker trade to get the number one pick away for them. Just like how much the Sharks like Macklin last year. That's not worth it. But if the Islanders know they're not going to pick Schaefer and they know they're going to pick somebody else, but they want to
Mhm.
get something for their number one spot, the number one position, then there's going to be some flexibility if Islanders know that
Yep.
they want Misa or even if they want Higgins or something like that, right? And so then if you just flip flop picks for them, then the cost would be more reasonable. And so
Mhm.
I'm still of the mind that if a deal like that is on the table, that I would make that trade to guarantee you get defense, which you really need, and is also the top prospect in the draft too. So this is not just trading for need, quote unquote. But if you're at number two, then I'm still content with Misa.
Yep. I would not spend too much. I think that's my
Mm.
final answer. Although yeah, I waffle on that all the time. Like sometimes I'm like, I really think they need Schaefer, and I want to throw multiple prospects at them, or picks, like 2 extra first round picks kind of thing.
Like I said, I suggested kind of frameworks of what the Perry pick value chart that's on Puckpedia suggested, and I would do those trades. I think one of them from the article was close approximation was trading the Islanders number 2, the Dallas pick, which is going to be 29 to 32, and the first pick of the second round. That's 33. I would trade that. That's a lot already, but that's not too much in my mind. So that's something that I would do. I would even consider if they want to flip flop even look, the San Jose pick at 33 is basically or the Dallas pick, right? They're either really high second rounders or they're both late first rounders. You can look at them that way. So they're interchangeable. So like I would trade the Dallas pick and maybe even talk about the Edmonton pick next year to guarantee you get the guy, because it's not, again, you're not just getting the guy because you need him. You also get him because if you consider him to be the top prospect on the board, irregardless of position. So that kind of, in a way that kind of doubles the urgency to trade for the guy, because not only do you see him as the number 1 prospect, I don't know if the Sharks see Schaefer as that, but if you see Schaefer as the clear number 1 prospect, but you also have a acute need at his position, then I would say argue that should double your urgency of making such a trade.
Yeah, that's fair. We'll see. It's all coming into a head in the next month, so super excited to be there with you guys.
Quick last question for you. So, was that the limits that you would consider? My limits, trading number 2, Dallas's number 1 this year, and Edmonton's number 1 next year, which is top 12 protected, by the way. So it is Gavin McKenna protected.
I think that it's kind of up Mike Grier's alley, to be honest, because he does do these kind of, it's a calculated gamble, right? Askerov's a good example,
right?
It is the big gamble of his tenure, so it's not like it's out of the realm possibility, and it's not a terrible value. So if he did it, I'd be pumped. But it's interesting for sure.
And it's not just need too; it's also need coupled with the best guy available at that position. Askarov was arguably the best goaltending prospect in the world.
Yeah,
Schaefer is arguably the number 1 prospect of this draft, and also happens to fit again a great need in your organization. So, well, I'm asking you. So you would consider it though? You're saying that
I would.
You think that would be Greer? Okay,
I would. I think especially this year, the Dallas pick, you're not going to get too much value for that, and you have 2 other second round picks, and one of them super early anyway. So you've got 2 other guys you can pick right after.
Yeah, and you're assuming Edmonton next year is going to be good, and if probably. They do bottom out for some reason, it is top 12 protected at least.
Yep.
So you don't have a Stützle situation repeat.
Yeah,
I mean Edmonton avoids that too, obviously having it protected, but
yeah. So I think it's if that was a real deal that they wanted to make, and like you were sure you were going to miss out on Schaefer if they didn't do it, then yeah. I think
part of it is because the Islanders know that they don't want the player, and so then a lot of fans will say, "Well, why don't you just stay in that position?" And yes, there's an argument for that. Stay on number 2 and just let Schaefer drop to you. But on the other hand, though, once Islanders know that they don't want this Schaefer as their number 1, other teams are going to know, and other teams are going to make offers to leapfrog you at number 1, and that's what you can't allow if that is the guy that you want.
Yep. If they're shopping the pick or they know, then yeah, you've got to be the one to put up the offer. So, oof, rough times. But I don't think anyone else really is going to be able to leapfrog. Chicago wouldn't do it because they don't want to, unless they, like they wouldn't, because they don't need a defense. And then 4 is Utah, right?
Yeah, I mean, no other team has a number 2 pick, obviously, but. Yeah. Other teams have good stuff to trade, though. Like, let's say a Utah wants to move up.
They could use a good defenseman.
4 and something else. Yeah. So
Yeah, they could do it, I guess. We'll have to write, or we'll have to do some more speculating. There's going to be lots of rumors out, like the week, in quotes, the week before the draft. Like,
Combine's gonna be fun. So
yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be Porter Martone going number 1. Anton Frondell going number 1. That kind of thing. There's some surprise some years, right? Like the Slafkovsky year was a pretty good surprise. Like there was rumblings right before it happened. But
well, we talked about it with the Bowmeister year a long time ago. Was it maybe similar where a lot of people thought that he would be number 1 and he did not end up as number 1? Mm-hmm. I actually got to read more about the Ekblad year. Of course, he did go number 1, but that draft wasn't.
I feel like he was supposed to go number 1
either.
I feel like that was like he was supposed to go number 1 though, if I remember,
but it wasn't as concrete though that he was like he's no Rasmus Dahlin, who is the kind of clear example of the guy that was like from from day one of I think of the season to the draft, day one of his draft year to the draft, that he was the clear number 1 prospect. So, but
cool. All right, y'all. We are going to see you next week after the combine. So hope y'all have a good week.
Or during the combine.
That's right. Yeah. It will be during the combine. Hope y'all have a good week. Bye.
Want to welcome back a guest that we've had for a couple of years. We love having him on every single year. Todd Marchant. He is the Director of Player Development and a Senior Advisor for the San Jose Sharks. And we have Todd on here to talk about every prospect in the San Jose Sharks system. Welcome on back on board, Todd.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Todd, we're going to get started. We're going to go kind of like league by league because we've got a few different big hitters to start with in the OHL. So we want to start with San Jose's probably number 1 D prospect in Sam Dickinson. How do you think his season went? Do you think his processing is improved, and how NHL ready is he, do you think?
Well, I don't think his season could have gone any better, personally, and as a team as well. I mean, they won another OHL championship, and they're 1 win away from advancing to the Memorial Cup final 2 years in a row, which is unbelievable. I mean, that team has been able to accomplish a lot in their time together, and Sam's a big part of it. He plays a lot of big minutes. He plays 25, 30 minutes a night. He plays power play, penalty kill. We saw Sam quite a bit last year in his draft year because of Kasper being there. So we did see him quite a bit in his draft year, and obviously this year as well. And I think he took a big step in his ability to defend. Everyone knows what kind of offense he can put up. I think he put up 91 points or something like that. But it's his ability to defend and play in all situations, and knowing when it's a good time to jump up in the play and when isn't. And not just playing kind of a careless, reckless type of a game. And he's really kind of dialed it in and reeled it in a little bit. And I think his overall awareness has gotten better. There were times, in his draft year, I would say to myself, get going. Someone's right on you. You don't realize it. I thought he did a much better job of that this year as well. And he's really taken a huge step forward in his development. And we're really, really happy that they're in the situation that they're in.
He's kind of an interesting.
NHL ready?
Yeah, that's kind of the next question.
Did you say AHL or NHL?
NHL.
He's close. Unfortunately, he's in a situation where he has to play in the NHL or he has to go back to junior. There's just no in between. And so he's going to get, just like every prospect that comes to training camp gets every opportunity to make the big club. They all come to, NHL camp, and they get an opportunity to show the coaching staff that they deserve an opportunity. And Sam's going to be no different than anybody else that comes to camp this year. So, do I think he's ready? I mean, time will tell, but he's done everything in his power to put himself in the right position.
Yep. It's a rough situation because he also isn't part of the transfer agreement to the NCAA, so he can't really transfer out of juniors either because of the ELC, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, and again, years ago when this wasn't a possibility, most times not, you'd sign your first round picks or second round picks right away. Right. Yep. Now it's going to be interesting to see what teams do, because they may want to have an extra year out of somebody as opposed to them having to go back to junior for another year. So this is going to be our first year dealing with it and adapting. And I don't think no one really has all the answers yet. We're still kind of waiting to find out if a player does leave junior and goes to college, do we still retain his rights? Does he go back into the draft? If it's been 2 years. So there's a lot of questions, not a lot of answers yet, but I'm hoping when this CBA gets finalized here, hopefully soon, they'll have answers for all the teams.
And you mentioned Kasper Halttunen that you guys saw in his draft year as well. Big part of the London team, huge playoffs for Kasper. It seemed like every night he was making highlight reel goals and everything. Do you think his all-around game has kind of grown this year as well?
Yeah, and I think his time in the American League really helped him. So here's an example of a guy that was drafted out of Europe, so was a signed player and was allowed to play 6 games. He was there for almost 2 months with the Barracuda. So he got a lot of really good experience about what you can do with pucks, where you can't take a risky play. And the other thing about him is that we all know he can score goals. He's got an NHL shot. It's elite. But if you watch the goals that he scored, specifically in the playoffs, he's scoring them in all different ways. And we challenged him on that. We said, you can't just be a one-trick pony. You can't be a guy that just sits over on the flank and scores on the power play. It's not. You got to find a way to make other contributions, and he's done that. He really has. And when the game is at its highest right now in the playoffs, he's proving it. I mean, for him to score 4 hat tricks in 9 OHL championship games is almost ridiculous. I was trying to think to myself, I was talking to Tommy Wingles and Lucas Pizzi the other day, and I was trying to think what would be comparable to that. Like, is there any other thing in the game of hockey where you could say, well, that's pretty close? I've just never heard of it. And in the game 5 against when they clinched, he hit the post. He could have had a 5th hat trick. I mean, he had 2 goals in that game. He could have had a 5th. It was just, he was, like I said, he was doing it all different ways. And I think that he's really taken a big step in his chapter in his career, looks like.
Yeah, he, like you said, it seems like he stepped up, and like maybe not the regular season wasn't always the highlight reels that we're seeing, but then in the playoffs, it seems like his play just like, I don't know, took off on a different level, which is good to see from a guy that, like you said, he's got an elite shot, but you got to find ways to do it in the next level. So,
and we love to see players. I talk about this all the time. We love seeing players raise the game in the playoffs. Some players can do it. Some players can't. Some players, it is either something that's in them or that they recognize that, I listen to all of his interviews, Kasper. He just talks about this being the best time of the year, and he loves it. And he loves raising his game, and he loves the crowd. And for me, that's so crucial, because if you watch, I watch hockey almost every night, and I'm watching the NHL playoffs, and you watch how teams and individuals raise their game at this time of year, and that's what it takes. That's what it's going to take to win a Stanley Cup.
Yep. Do you think next year likely Barracuda bound or around?
Yeah, I think he's obviously has the ability going back junior, but I don't think there's anything more for him to accomplish there. I think he really wants to win this Memorial Cup and then be done with junior and start his pro career.
2 more prospects in the OHL that we're going to talk about. One is Quentin Musty, who was drafted in 23 at the end of the first round there. Has kind of had like a chaotic year. It seemed like there was a hand injury. There was some trade requests in the OHL. What did you think of his year overall?
Yeah, it was a tough year for him. I think he had in his mind that he was going to be playing in the NHL this year. He's in the same situation that Sam Dickinson is going to be in next year. Either he makes the big club or he has to go back to junior. And he came in. He had a really good rookie camp. And had a decent training camp, but he just wasn't ready. He wasn't that person that was making the coaching staff take notice that you're ready to play in the NHL. So we made the decision that he would go back to junior, and in that time period of him getting on the plane in San Francisco and landing in Toronto, Quentin and his family and his representation decided that they were going to ask for a trade out of Sudbury. And it became, kind of tenuous at times with the Sudbury GM and the situation, and the owner got involved. And throughout the whole process, I explained to the Sudbury personnel that we just want what's best for Quentin. We're going to support him. I'm not sitting here saying that we authorized or we said you should ask for a trade. We never did that. But we felt as though that we didn't think Sudbury was going to be as good a team as they were last year. Mm-hmm. They ended up making the playoffs and losing in the first round. And, they ended up not trading Quentin. They decided that, we're going to keep him. And then he had the injury with the hand. And so he only played, I think, 30 some games this year. So for as great a season as he had last year, 102 points, and really kind of, put his stamp on the OHL, it was a little bit of a step back this year for him in that sense. And we actually thought that they were going to trade him. I talked to a couple teams that had put out some, really good offers for him, but at the end of the day, the Sudbury ownership and management decided they wanted to keep him, and that was their right. Mm-hmm. And so Quentin just decided to put his work boots on and just go play, and he found himself and I think he was ready. He's ready to turn pro. Obviously, he's going to turn pro this year. He got into some games with the Barracuda. He looked really good. He didn't look out of place. So, he's another player that's going to get an opportunity to make the big club. And if he's not, then he'll just have to continue to work on his game in the American Hockey League.
It does seem like it was kind of a mismatch of maybe not expectations, but some sort of basically like he just got a little bit ahead of the curve that he was on, it seemed like.
Yeah. And again, these are tough situations for 19-year-old kids to kind of navigate. And that's why you have your parents involved, and you've got your representation, your advisors. And,
yep.
At the end of the day, I told them, listen, life is about choices. You know what? You're going to make them the rest of your life, but what would come with these choices come consequences, and you have to live with them. And I said, you decided that you wanted to ask for a trade, and that happens. And it didn't happen for you. They had all the cards. You didn't. And so he just had to go back and just keep playing and continue to develop.
Kind of a surprise. This is our last OHL guy is Igor Chernyshov, who came over from Russia, joined after the new year, and just immediate lightning with Michael Misa. What did you see from his game, and is he kind of also AHL bound next year? We're going to get like a huge cohort of AHL guys.
Yeah, Igor, here's an individual that was drafted in the second round. He didn't speak very good English at all. He comes over, he comes over for development camp. Then he goes home, he hurts his shoulder, has surgery, has to come back to San Jose. He rehabs his shoulder all summer long. Every day during training camp, I go in the gym, I see him there. He's riding the bike, the Airdyne bike, with one arm because he can't use the other one. And he always had a smile on his face. I just said to him, I love your work ethic. And the decision was for him to come over and play in Saginaw. But the rehab process until sometime, I believe, in January. I was at his first game, believe it or not, and doesn't he go out and score in his first shift? And I'm like, this can't be happening. And then he went on to have an unbelievable 30-some games that he played the rest of the year, 20-some games he played the rest of the year. And I think towards the end, especially in the playoffs, he just started to get tired. It was a lot in a short period of time, and the chemistry that he had with Michael Misa and the other person on the line was Epperson. The three of them were just dynamic. The way they moved the puck and moved off each other, and they just seemed to have great chemistry. So he kind of took a big step forward this year with his play, and he's a big body, and he played some games with the CUDA at the end of the seasons, which I thought was great for his development to kind of get a little taste of it. And we're looking for big things from him next year as well.
In the AHL?
Again, it goes based off of where you're drafted. He was drafted out of Russia, so he doesn't have the 2-year, and he's an older player. He's a late birthday, so he doesn't have the 2-year restriction that the other kids do. So my guess is that's where he'll be. If he doesn't make the big club, he will be with the Barracuda.
Okay. Well, moving leagues here, staying in Canada, you have a few prospects in the WHL. So first, I wanted to ask you about Carson Wesch, and he just big trade was just traded to Kelowna. And anyway, what are you kind of looking for from Carson next year? Kind of areas of growth for next year for Carson?
Yeah, so Carson, played for Calgary Hitmen in the WHL. He had 30 some goals this year. He's a power forward, goes to the front of the net, goes to the dirty areas, can be physical. He's a net front power play guy. He's a team guy first, was the captain of the team. The biggest thing for me this year that we saw was we like what we see when he does it. When he plays that power forward, straight line, in your face type of a game, it's when he gets away from it. So it's a very inconsistent thing for him. And that's very common with young players. They just don't understand. And again, I go back to watching the playoffs, and you watch the way Matthew Tkachuk plays. Matthew Tkachuk plays the same way every single game he plays. There's no doubt about it. And that's what I've told Carson. I'm like, say, listen, watch the way the Florida Panthers play. Watch the way Sam Bennett plays. These are the guys that smash mouth in your face. That's the type of game you have to play. And those players are very valuable on a team because they're very hard to come by nowadays. Nowadays, it's the kids all want to be skilled, right? They want to be the guy that has the big shot or, can dangle somebody or whatever. Long gone are a lot. They're very, very hard to find those, straight line, north-south, power forward players. And Carson fits that bill. And, last year after he was drafted, he got a chance to go to Team Canada at the World Junior Summer Showcase and get some experience. So we're really hoping that obviously Kelowna hosting the Memorial Cup next year is a big feather in his cap. And that's why they went out and got Carson in a trade. So we're hoping that, he has a big year this year for Kelowna and can make, hopefully make Team Canada in the World Juniors and, kind of take another step in his development. And
Carson, too, is a childhood friend of Macklin Celebrini's. There's a bodyguard role available next to Macklin. But moving on, I want to ask you about Nate Miskey. And Nate Miskey, he's actually already 20. And so is he somebody who is ready to leave Victoria? Do you see him as somebody that could join the Barracuda next year?
So Nate will be going to UMass Lowell.
Oh, okay.
So a little tidbit for you. Yeah. So one of our junior players that's going to go on to play in college. He's a really good student. So he wanted to continue that part. Didn't feel as though going back as a 20-year-old in the Western Hockey League would be worth his his season. So he's going to go on to Lowell. Big body, 6'4", good skater. Another player that I think hasn't really figured out what type of player he is. We think that he's more of a puck moving, shut down, not going to be a overly physical guy, but somebody just gets in your way. Like a Mikola from Florida type player, just a guy that, and then he can jump up in the offense when it's there. And we've seen that from that player in Florida. So, Nate isn't quite ready for pro hockey yet, but so this was a good opportunity for him to continue his development by going to the NCAA.
Okay. And how about Colton Roberts, drafted in the same draft, but Colton's a bit younger, Vancouver Giants defenseman. How did you see his season, his development, and for next year, what are you looking at?
Yeah, another player, again, I think I'm like a broken record, a little inconsistent at times from game to game. And what we saw this year really took a huge step towards the end of the season. So we're hoping that again, I think for him and all these players, the next time we see them at development camp, we see them bigger, stronger, faster than we saw them a year ago. So, Colton can definitely get bigger and stronger off the ice. Could use probably 10 or 15 pounds of muscle to be able to play the game that he wants to play. And that's that, again, in your face, puck moving type of a defenseman.
And it sounds like we have to add one more player to the NCAA list, which is what we're going to move to next. Is there anybody else that is transferring over to the NCAA from the juniors, or just Miskey?
No, just Nate as of right now.
Wanted to ask you about Joey Muldowney, who had kind of a explosion this year in terms of his production. Really stepped up his role. Went from 14 points last year to 47 this year. Do you anticipate next year some more growth from him, possibly in ELC at the end of next year?
I give Joey all the credit because, Joey, when Joey was in Des Moines, I just didn't feel, I felt as though that he could have used another year in the USHL, but he was head set on going to UConn 2 years ago. And he got into UConn. He had to work his way up the lineup, started on the fourth line in a PK role, kind of worked his way up into the second power play time, and really earned the trust of the coaching staff there at UConn. He comes back this year, and he was as hot as Sam Dickinson was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was unbelievable. It was like he was scoring goals every single weekend. He scored some big goals in the playoffs for them. Really was moved himself right up into the first line, first power play, and was their offensive catalyst. And what I like about Joey is Joey's got really good hockey sense. He knows where to go. He scored a goal in the playoffs. He kind of faked a guy out, thinking the guy thought he was going to go one way. He went the other way, got the puck, and was in the back of net before the guy even turned around. It was just, I mean, it's really not something. It's very difficult to teach that stuff. So, Joey being a smaller guy, he's going to have to play with, a little bit of an edge, a little bit of grit. He's going to have to get his nose dirty. But everything that he did last year was just off the charts. I don't think anybody could have expected. He finished, I believe, second in the NCAA in goals with 29 behind
29, right? Yeah.
29 behind Ryan Leonard. I mean, that's a real big season for him. And, hoping that he got some Hobie Baker, talk, and hopefully he can continue to go.
We have quite a few more to go through, so we're going to go a little quicker to make our time here. So how about Eric Polkamp? Kind of had a move over to Denver. Looked pretty good.
Yeah, Eric, made the transfer from Bemidji for Denver. Played on the second pairing there with this Buckberger, Boston Buckberger's his name, and they really solidified that second pair behind Buium. I'll tell you, he's got an unbelievable shot. He really took a huge step. Denver was the right place for him. Not that Bemidji wasn't, but Denver was a really good landing place for him to play under David Carl, who's an excellent coach.
Yep.
And he had a really good year this year offensively. Obviously, now that Buium has turned pro, that puts more responsibility on Eric, and we expect nothing but big things from him next season.
Let me just jump in here on Muldowney and Polkamp. You expect both of them to be in college next year, kind of grow their game there for another year.
Yeah, I think that that's the direction that they need to be heading. I mean, there's we've already got several guys that are turning pro. We can't have too many.
Sure.
And they still need more time. So there's no rushing the development.
Another late round pick was Reese Laubach, who also joined the NCAA at the beginning of last year from the USHL, kind of like Muldowney. Had 30 points in 35 games this year. What do you anticipate his role being going forward with Penn State?
Yeah, I mean, another player that kind of worked his way up in the lineup last year, and then this season specifically was one of their top players, top first line at Penn State, made the NCAA tournament, and they went really deep in the tournament. So, Reese is one of those guys that continues to get better. He's a player that if he's the way that he plays the game, he has got to get bigger and stronger, and he knows that. Lives right there in San Jose, and I said, there's no excuse. You've got everything at your disposal. So, but he's a great kid. He works hard. He gets his nose dirty. Very responsible player, 200-foot game. So, looking for another big season from him at Penn State next season.
It's pretty good to have like 6th and 7th round picks like that, like seemingly doing pretty well, improving their production every year. It doesn't seem to be always the most common thing. So.
Well, I mean, it just goes to a testament of how great what a good job of our amateur staff does, because you got to find players that pop, that are late picks. I mean, you look at all the great teams, the teams that go on, they've got one or two guys that were late picks or whatever that have found a way to make a contribution to their club.
A little bit of a higher pick was Brandon Svoboda, who was picked in the 3rd round in 23, I believe. He hasn't had a lot of production, but I don't know if that's ever really been Svoboda's game. Do you see him as kind of that typical 3rd, 4th line role type in the future?
Yeah, Brandon's a big kid. He's 6'3". He's a really good skater. He's got good skills. He's excellent in the face-off circle. He understands that part of the game. I've never seen a player actually have a chance to win as many championships in a short period of time that he has. He won the Clark Cup with Youngstown 2 years ago. He won the Clark Cup last year with Fargo. This year, he wins the World Junior gold medal with Team USA, and he was in the championship game for the NCAAs with BU. I mean, it's almost like Kenny Morrow winning the gold medal in 1980 and winning 4 Stanley Cups in 4 years. I mean, it's not the same level, but that many championships. It's pretty remarkable. And Brandon had a great World Junior tournament. He really did. He had 3 goals, 3 assists. He scored big goals. David Carl relied on him in defensive situations. So I think that he understands that that's going to be his meal ticket moving forward, being one of those guys at third, fourth line center or wing that is responsible, but can get pucks out, get pucks in, get on the forecheck, and be a good PK guy. So Brandon, even though you said he only had, I think, 9 points or something like that at BU this year, I think that he's a guy that can definitely take a big step next year at BU, given more opportunity.
We have 3 more NCAA guys that we're just going to mention quickly. One of them was signed recently, Noah Beck. We'll also talk about Timofey Spitzeroff and Eli Barnett. But anything about Noah Beck specifically that you guys liked when you signed him?
I actually he went to my alma mater, Clarkson, but I didn't see Clarkson play. I didn't see Clarkson play live this year. But our scouting staff saw something in him that they really liked, and he's kind of a lanky kid that we saw. He was there with the Barracuda at the end of the season, so hopefully he can have a real good summer in the weight room and get some strength. And he's a good skater. We'll have to see what he can bring to the pro game.
And then Spitzeroff signed an amateur tryout in the ECHL. Is he are the rights still retained by the Sharks? Is he still part of this organization, or is it going to figure out as he goes kind of thing? Yeah,
I informed Timothy and his agent that we would not be pursuing a contract with him, and wished him all the best. And he finished his college career at UVM, and it just for us, it just wasn't the right time.
Got it. And Eli Barnett had only 8 games this year, and with Vermont, is there anything with that as well?
Yeah, Eli had a tough year. I know he's looking to potentially transfer. I haven't heard where he's going or what he has decided. Big body, just doesn't use it to his advantage as much as he should. So hopefully he can, if he does transfer, get somewhere else where he can get some more playing time and continue to develop his game.
Is he healthy? Like he can play next year somewhere. Like he's able to do that.
Eli?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Is he healthy? Basically.
Yeah. He's healthy.
Okay.
He just didn't. Okay. The new coach came in and just liked other people more than him.
Okay. Fair enough. Moving on to staying in North America, USHL. You have David Klee, the son of Ken Klee, and is he a bit of a sleeper prospect? He had a good season this year. Actually, I read something that Dave Starman wrote about, just that he's one of the strongest kids that he's seen in that league. And so, can you tell us a little bit about David?
Yeah, David had a great year. Another Clark Cup champion at Muskegon. He's one of those, third, fourth line guys that's good on the faceoffs, good PK guy, gets in your face, not afraid to mix it up. He's going to North Dakota next year, so great spot for him to develop and to continue work on his game. But obviously has the pedigree of dad playing. I actually played with his dad in Anaheim. Yeah. So it kind of makes me start to feel a little old when you talk about kids that you play with their dads, but. No, he's a great kid. He's got a lot of energy, and we're looking forward to him to continue to develop his game at the NCAA level.
Love it. Just a couple more minutes we got here with you, Todd. Thank you so much for the answers for all these not unheralded prospects, but kind of deep dive that we're doing here. Matthias Havlet recently signed his contract out of the SA, or actually out of the Allsvenskan. What did you see him out of Djurgården to earn him that contract?
Yeah, I mean, it was he's a player that we've kind of been after for a couple of years, kind of trying to figure out what's the best thing for him. And, his representation and parents thought it would be better for him to develop over in Sweden. The problem with that was that he wasn't getting any playing time. He was in and out of the lineup. When he was in, he was getting, some nights it would be 5-6 minutes. Some nights it would be 10. Some nights he wouldn't even be in the lineup. And then about midway through the year, he got loaned to Djurgården in the Allsvenskan, one level down from the SHL, and his game just took off. I mean, they had a good team. They ended up winning the whole thing. He was with good players, with obviously Eki's brother, Frondell, some really good prospects and players. And, so I think he found his game again. He found the confidence, and, they came to us after the season was over and said, we think it's time to come over. So, he's a right shot defenseman, good skater, can run a power play. He's going to be over next year in San Jose, and we're looking forward to seeing what type of, how his game can translate to North America.
Anything with Leo Salin-Wallenius, who was also a pretty high pick last year? He said he played with 4 different teams, I think, this year. Do you see some more stability next year? I can't pronounce the name of the team ever.
Vaxjo.
You
say it like it looks like.
Yeah.
The Lakers. There we go.
Yeah. So he had a tough year too. He's a young player, and he started out the season, and all of a sudden, they kind of, he fell out of favor with the coaching staff and the team. He just didn't get as much ice time. So he actually went over to Finland and played for TPS, and he got his confidence back. And then he went back to the SHL team after the 3 weeks he was there, and his game just took off. He started playing more, started making more plays. So it was really a good thing for him to be able to do that, so that he could regain his game. And he should be a player that's a candidate for the Swedish World Junior team. And hopefully he can continue to develop his game. It was great to see him come over as well. He came over, was with the Barracuda for a better part of 2-3 weeks. So he got to see a little bit of the pro game over here. So all good on his end.
I don't think you needed to sign him to his ELC though. So I'm wondering sort of the reasoning behind that. Is the plan maybe that he comes over after next year with Vaxjo?
Yeah, there's rules about when you draft a European player, when do you actually have control of him. I think this is the year that now it's the last year that we won't have control of him as a player, as to, either has to play in the NHL or he has to go back, kind of thing. Whereas after next year, we can put him in the Barracuda if we wanted to. It's just, again, every league has different rules with their players. So that was the thinking behind that. And obviously he's a good skating, puck moving defenseman. So you can never have enough good puck moving defensemen.
It seems like we're just taking all the Swedish defensemen. Axel Landon came over from Sweden at the end of the season, came over to North America. Is the plan for him to be in San Jose next year?
Axel is going to play over in Finland for TPS.
Oh,
kind of what Leo did. So his contract was up in Sweden. It didn't look like he was going to be on an SHL team. Kind of felt that, Allsvenskan was maybe a little bit, he played most of the year in Allsvenskan. So TPS is kind of, the Finnish league is more his style. Let's put it that way. He's a rough, in your face, physical type defenseman. And Finland, their league kind of plays that way. So it's a great situation. Tommy Kallio, one of our European scouts, is heavily involved with TPS. So it's a win-win for us with him, and hopefully he can continue to have another great year.
Last one is Theo Jacobson. I think his rights expire in 5-6 days. Is that true?
Yeah, Theo. Yeah, Theo. As much as we saw a little bit of growth in his game, just hasn't taken that next big step. So we've informed him and his representation that we won't be offering him a contract as well.
Yeah, well, we just have just a handful of prospects left, Todd. So you guys, you have time for that?
Sure.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So KHL, Igor Chernyshov, how do you see his growth this season? His stats look similar to last year, and so he's an offensive player too. But just anyway, tell us about him.
Yeah, it's hard. We haven't met him.
No.
We've never met him. I've never seen him in person. I've watched him on video, but video doesn't always tell you everything. So we're trying to get him over for a development camp. It's tricky with the visas and stuff like that. But we're just like I said, I want to have a chance to just meet him in person and put a face to the name and all that sort of stuff. So I don't have much to tell you other than he's playing in the KHL as a young player, which is not easy.
Sure.
It's one of those situations where, he's continuing to develop, and hopefully he can keep taking strides forward.
And you have another goalie prospect there. I'm not sure what you could tell us about him, but Korostelyov had incredible numbers in MHL this year as a 19-year-old. 936 save percentage, 1.53 goals against, granted for a powerhouse team. But anyway, what did you see, or what have you heard from him?
So he is supposed to be coming to development camp. He's got a visa appointment, I think, tomorrow. So that should hopefully that'll get done. We get a chance to meet him for the first time. Obviously, he's in a little bit of log jam there with St. Petersburg. There's a lot of goalies in their organization. So I know that his representation have been looking for other options for him to play next year, potentially over North America. I don't think he's eligible for the CHL at his age, but he might be eligible in the USHL. So we're still working on that situation, but hopefully he can, if that happens, he can come over and we get some better eyes on
him. Wanted to ask about Christian Kirsch, who's another goaltender taken last year. He got from the USHL to the NAHL, which is an interesting path for a goalie. Do you think that helped to raise his game a little bit, get some more starts there?
Yeah, it was a tough year for him. Green Bay had when he signed with them, all the indication was he was going to have a chance to fight, for the starting goalie job. Mm-hmm. And about a month into the season, the general manager called me and said, I just don't see, I'm going to go with my 20-year-old. I just don't see Christian getting a lot of starts. We're going to, we think it might be good for him to go play somewhere else. So UMass Amherst had helped out because he was supposed to go to UMass Amherst this season. Mm-hmm. And they found him a place in Janesville. So he split the time in Janesville. I think he played 24 games in Janesville in the North American Hockey League. Obviously went to the World Juniors for Team Switzerland. Went back to Janesville after the year. So next year, he has not decided where he's going to play. Rights were traded to Chicago in the USHL. Mm-hmm. So either Chicago is an option, or he's looking at the CHL. A lot of CHL teams have expressed interest in Christian coming to play for them. So that import draft is early July. So depending on which team drafts him, that could be an option as well.
Is he still a candidate to go to UMass at any point, or is that kind of?
Yeah, he still wants to go to UMass. That hasn't changed, but he can go to the CHL now and play and still go to UMass. It's just that, UMass has Rabel as their number one guy. So I don't think that Christian's going to see many starts from him. So.
Way it goes sometimes. Last one is Michael Fisher, who went back to the BCHL from the NCAA and is going to Cornell next year, sounds like. Yeah,
tough year. Broke his hand twice, same hand. Wow. But really looking forward to a new start for him. Big guy, can skate. Said he really, found his game physically this year. So he's hoping that, Cornell, that kind of fits his style, or what he wants to play like, because Cornell always kind of plays that big physical type of a defenseman, not necessarily the way that Northeastern played, where he was last year. So looking for a fresh start for him, and hopefully he can continue to get his game on track and play the way he wants to.
And just to wrap up here, Todd, and thanks so much for your time. I just wanted to touch on it. Anybody listening, we didn't talk so much about the AHL prospects just because, it's easier for all of us to kind of get eyes on them. I mean, like with going in person and whatnot. And so Todd's on here to kind of talk about sort of the lesser seen prospects, the prospects on the outer rims here. But just really quickly to wrap up, Todd, last question from me. Just wanted to ask you if you can give us any update on sort of contract statuses of some of these AHL prospects, just next steps for them, if you happen to know them, if decisions have been made. So just a few of them, just to rattle them off to you. Romanov, Carrier, Brandon Coe, Gushin, and Bordelot. Anything you can say about those kids?
We haven't really talked about those situations. It's not really, I when I get asked, I give an answer. But Joe Will and Ryan Clough and Mike Greer are the ones that kind of, along with the coaching staff, will make those decisions as to, who comes back, who doesn't. And it's still a little early. I think everyone's kind of focused on the draft right now.
Sure.
The combine coming up this week, and then the draft, and obviously then free agency. So those things all work themselves out, but they're good problems to have. You got to make decisions on people, which is never easy, but at least we've got guys that good players that we have to make decisions on.
Right. Okay, well, Todd, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate you doing this on Memorial Day too.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Enjoy the weather. See you, Todd.
See ya.